it is time for this week's Talking Points. Well, Jim and Cornelius alongside me to go through those 7 topics on the screen at the moment. And the first one is one that we've been talking about for a long time. We know that Lord
Certainly
Allen...
since last autumn.
Well, he's supposed to have come in so long ago. But finally, earlier this week, he's been given the green light to take command of the BHA. But of course, Jim, that's not the end of the story because, of course, he's got to appoint an independent board now, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much he's been given the green light, he's decided that he will take up the role, I think, isn't having done a fair bit of due diligence and discussions. And I think this board structure is hugely important. I mean, we've been in a period of pretty much stasis with the current structure where, you know, nothing could really get done. Vested interests would have too much sway, and, you know, important decisions that could or should be made were proving difficult to get over the line. So I think... look, whilst, you know, it might be uncomfortable having a fully independent board where we have less control maybe over decision making, I think racing is in such a difficult situation that some hard decisions are going to have to be made, and you need a strong chairman and a board that can make those decisions.
The fact that he's given himself the green light and he has, well, I hesitate to use held to ransom, but obviously grabbed racing by the scruff of the neck and said, you know, I'm going to continue listening before I actually agree to take it up. I think that's hugely promising. You know, the fact, you know, this guy is, you know, he's got a bit about him, as they say, and really looking forward to that. I'm just intrigued who's going to be
independent
and who's going to be on who's going to be on the board, because if you know anything about racing, then you probably have got some kind of affiliation. Yes. So that's quite an interesting thing. We've heard a lot about this independent board, but not that much detail about it, have we? So he starts in September next month. Oh, I suppose only a couple of weeks away now.
No,
a few
exactly.
weeks away.
I suppose what I left out in my thing about him getting the green light is his proposals, because sure, that's the key. The fact that, you know, I think the Jockey Club came out supporting his proposals. Some of the other, you know, leading bodies, racecourses, came out support. 1 or 2 were deliberating, but I'm hoping that the fact that they've got together to agree to put him in that position, and he's accepted
and
it.
he's obviously in a very powerful position, isn't he? Because
also the fact that we've got this impending tax issue hanging over the sport, like the sword of Damocles, and his Labour connections as well.
Absolutely. I mean, for a long time, we haven't had the political nous necessarily that some of our, not opponents, but some of the other bodies within the sport have had, you know, and our lobbying has maybe not been as strong as some bodies. So having someone so closely related to Labour is got to be a good thing.
The next topic, the closure. Surprisingly, clearly in some respects, that this racecourse is about to close with immediate effect. A rarity in a sense, Cornelius, because it's a privately owned racecourse.
Enterprise, yeah. And talk about coming out of the blue. Clearly, everyone was taken by surprise at this news. It's a racecourse that is hugely popular in Ireland because the ground tends to be suitable, whatever the weather is doing. And it was also the scene of the accident that Michael O'Sullivan suffered. So, yeah, it's come slightly out of nowhere. The fixtures, I think, were sorted for next year. So it raises a few questions, really, doesn't it? One of which is, if the Maloney family want to get rid of it or to not be involved anymore, could they have offered it for sale? Surely there would have been somebody who would have, maybe another private organisation. Yeah. HRI possibly not necessarily in the position to be able to do it financially, and they've got all sorts of things on their plate anyway. So sort of an element of mystery about the whole thing, and you would have thought there might have been if we don't get help, bloody blah, bloody blah, then we might have to close. But no, bang, close.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely wonder if it couldn't have been handled better. You know, it's come as a big bolt out of the blue for a lot of people, and to close with immediate effect like this for.
It would be lovely to think it might continue. There might be a chance of continuing as a racecourse. I heard somebody point out, it's a long time since I went there, but it's pretty close to Thurles Town, so it'd be quite a valuable site for alternative employment. So,
which remains a serious issue for racecourses, of course, everywhere, and you can understand that. It was the quote that means most to me, I think, is the fact that HRI have said, you know, they're now hoping to have a meeting to discuss this with the Maloney family.
So they hadn't talked
clearly
about it
they did not know about it, and it's all caught, as you say, everyone by surprise. So there might be more developments to come on that as well. Now, on Tuesday at Goodwood, one of the most sad occasions we've had on a racecourse, the passing of a horse that had become very close to us over the last few years, and that was True Shan. There were interviews given by both his trainer, Alan King, James Given, in his role looking after welfare and safety for horses, and both those garnered some differing reactions. Jim, what were your thoughts on everything?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see the TV coverage, so I didn't see the interviews, but look, you can't say anything other than you're hugely saddened by it. He's a horse they've minded extremely well over the years, has been an absolute champion for them, and as you say, one that the public have taken to their heart. So desperate circumstances, and yeah, I'm sure Alan would have said anything far better than I could possibly about the issue.
I thought the interviews were generally very touching. James Given was very informative as well, but clearly finding it very emotional. I think True Shan gives a great legacy to the sport, not just the happy memories, but next time someone says to me, you know, I hate racing, it's cruel, blah-de-blah, I'm going to say, well, look, come with me and let's look up the website and let's look at True Shan's record. Age 9, racing from 2018 onwards, 16 out of 35 successes, £2 million. Alan King, Holly Doyle, lovely owners as well. He enjoyed it. He created a great deal of pleasure, loved by people, and a great deal of enjoyment as well. I think his legacy is to say to our opponents, look, here is a brilliant example of a racehorse that this is what the sport is for. It's for the thoroughbred, and here is a brilliant example of a horse that galloped on for years and years, loved it, gave a huge amount of pleasure, and was an absolutely fantastic advertisement for British for racing as a whole.
Extremely well said. Yeah. Can't concentrate just on the very unfortunate end, but what a career.
Absolutely, and the end was absolutely awful, and on such a big stage as well. However, the memories are great, and the legacy for the future, I think, is something that can be really grabbed hold of.
It's the genuine emotion. Obviously, you mentioned James Given, but Alan King's genuine emotion in the interviews that he gave the day after True Shan passed away, holding back the tears, but also saying, he wanted to be there right at the end. He asked, please wait till I get there so I could say goodbye. I mean, even now saying it makes me choked up to remember him saying that. And then, of course, he was saying that True Shan will return home and be buried with Boulder Success and Catch It and other great heroes. Anybody who has issues with the sport and how these horses are looked after and loved, just have to listen to what Alan King was saying, hear in his voice, see in his face, his emotions, just how well loved these horses are.
Maybe we're not that good at showing that the sport isn't that good at showing its animal above everything else. We're a sport of animal lovers. The sport is one thing, and it's huge. Obviously, that's what it's all about. Yeah. But it's the equine at the centre of it that is what everybody involved loves.
100%. We've spoken about the politics of the sport at length, and a rather divisive figure in politics was at Goodwood, but it's possible that, obviously, I can understand why Nigel Farage will want to garner this particular element of society, but he has promised, Jim, better tax rates for the sport under reform.
Well, look, he's a very savvy political operator, isn't he? So it's a message we'd all want to hear, and I'm sure it will go down very well in certain circles. What we need to do is convince this current government that this is the tack they should be taking, and and hopefully with a lot of what's going on at the moment, that's what'll happen.
I thought it was a really shrewd move by Farage. Not sure about his jacket, but I don't know. As
divisive as he is.
But he can live without sartorial advice from me. But the fact is that racing has been suspicious of the Conservatives in the past, despite having a Prime Minister who was the MP for racecourses and racing centres. That not a lot got done under the Tories, despite the Prime Minister's wife apparently really enjoying racing and loving their St Leger trip. Looked to go very well last year. She was at Ascot the other day and looked to be having a good time. There are suspicions about the current government, and clearly there is some hostility, because that survey that the Racing Post did with MPs, with racecourses and racing centres in their constituencies, definitely came up with some hostility on the Labour. Rachel Maskell, I think she's called, from York, clearly not a fan of the racing. So here is an example for Farage, who's looking for votes in every, in inverted commas, constituency, every area of British life, to say, well, look, we're on your side. And there will be plenty of people who look at that and think, well, we're pretty fed up with the Tories, we're pretty fed up with Labour. Let's have a good look at reform next time round. Yeah. There he was. He was a lot more recognisable, wasn't he? I think he was a guest of Dr. Jim Hayes.
Right.
Was it last year that Jim Hay had Liz Truss?
Yes.
And nobody recognised her.
Oh, no.
Everyone recognised Farage.
Chappers totally blanked Liz Truss in his interview at Goodwood last year. Magical moments, as they say. The flag starts at Goodwood. We've discussed it somewhat already. So just in a broader sense, should flag starts on the flat, obviously, should flag starts be outlawed completely? I mean, that would take away the uncertainty of, these situations.
Well, that would mean abandoning race meetings when the weather.
So that's what the discussion I was having with people on social media.
People were suggesting
flag starts could potentially.
That's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Well,
so you are going
for safety reasons. I can understand why the thought process would come into. So if there is thunder and lightning about, should the horses even be racing with a flag start or not? But
it's not. What was the weather like 45 minutes after the storm? It was.
That's what I'm saying. You sit around waiting to predict it.
But you can't abandon the what they did was the best of a bad job, wasn't it? I think they probably the BHA will just be thinking we might have to do this more often, and we'll be even readier for it than we were this year.
How could you be more ready for it?
You probably. Sorry.
Yes, I guess having better protocols at the start as to how to let them go, maybe. But I mean, as I said earlier, as a trainer, if I have an alternative of an abandoned race or a flag start race, I'm always going to say let's have a flag start. And look, someone might get unlucky, someone will get lucky. There's always two sides of a coin. If you do get these situations, and while that's never totally satisfactory, it's got to be better than abandoning the race.
And it's going to be the exception. Yeah. It's going to be really rare. We just happen to have had Windsor the other day and Goodwood very high profile in the middle of the Cancer Festival. So it's something everyone's talking about. But it's not. Fingers crossed.
Should a Group 1 race be started with a flag start in general?
Well, not ideally, but when there is no alternative.
Okay.
That'd be my...
And those flag starts, the results weren't so bizarre. You think, oh my goodness, not everyone was suited by the flag start, but ultimately, probably the same two horses would have, or the same horses would have been involved.
Again, playing devil's advocate, because I personally agree that in the circumstances it was the best that Goodwood could have done. But playing devil's advocate, does the result of the race even matter when you take into account whether that flag start was satisfactory or not?
Matter to who?
To whether or not
in the scheme of things.
The fact that World beat Cesene and See the Fire.
Are you going to downgrade that performance because it was a flag start, though?
No, I'm not. I'm saying personally, but does it matter that that's the result? That the best horse in the race won, even though the way the race was started with a flag start, was that slightly unsatisfactory in the fact that World got a 3-length start or was comfortably close?
Well, it was unsatisfactory for Bedtime Story and for Andrew Balding's horse.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. But look, sometimes you can have 10 horses in the starting stalls. Horse next to yours will rear up and bang and kick and upset yours, and then they'll let them off, and you'll miss the break 3 lengths. unfortunate incident that happens in a starting stall that affects the result of a race. But you're not going to say starting stalls aren't, you know. I don't know. I think you can be a bit too precious.
Hopefully, we don't have to talk about this again this year. But if there is thunder and lightning, then
indeed.
you know we will have to.
It was a freak event, but hopefully we'll be better prepared for it in the future. Racing tax. We touched on this at the very start of the show, Jim. We talked about the fact that it's currently 15%, but if we get lumped in with casinos, you're looking at 21% or more, up to 40%.
Well, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. I mean, and there's a very good report out by the Social Market Foundation just come out now looking at this whole taxation system and making proposals to government that would actually massively improve the situation for racing, looking at upping the tax on casinos and these games of chance, and then bringing the sports and racing tax to a sort of level playing field of 25%, but massively reducing the actual tax to the government of that and increasing the levy take, so you get far more money coming back into racing, but that's more than reciprocated by many, many millions by the increase in the taxation on the casinos and the games of chance. So it'd be a win for the government, it'd be a win for racing, and you know, some very, very interesting arguments put forward and proposals put forward that I hope government will look at very closely.
What are the chances of this succeeding, do you think, Cornelius?
Of the campaign succeeding? Yeah. Well, I heard somebody say, I think it was Nick saying this week, when it was being talked about the fact that the Prime Minister has a wife who likes racing, etc., that it wouldn't even make his desk. Well, I would think he's probably pretty aware of this, and if he's not, then he needs to be made aware of it. You know, these campaigns are things that inevitably have mixed success, but that drum has to be banged, and you have to go on banging it until it's too late. And you know, it's clearly something that that Charles Allen, when he comes in, is going to be thinking about.
There's two sides to it, not two sides to it, two areas we need to look at. One is we have to stop this harmonisation, this overall harmonisation that would cause, you know, major issues for racing. But then, as I say, the status quo isn't good enough. We then need to look at ways of increasing the revenue for racing. And
so the harmonisation just keeps us standing still, but we need to...
The harmonisation is a lack of understanding, isn't it, between the types of gambling.
One's skillful and one's chance.
Absolutely.
And it's a very simple thing for people who don't do it, or people who do it very rarely, to understand that one is one of skill and one is one of chance.
I mean, I can't believe a government would actually go with this proposal, because it's harebrained. It's and yeah, listen, we'll see what happens. I'm hopeful that at least that will not get the go.
I think we have every right to be quietly optimistic, but only very quietly. We need to be on the front foot.
Last element on talking points, Cornelius, Sybil Vogt, who...
She's got a ban, hasn't she?
6 months, is that right?
And it's a cocaine...
contamination.
Her defence was that it was a partner of hers, former partner of hers, who had taken the cocaine, and therefore she was there was cross-contamination. Now, often that, not just in racing, but often that particular argument has worked in terms of a reduced ban. It clearly did with Oisin Murphy when he was in France. And in other sports, I think it's right. You'll know about the tennis players that you know that was, it wasn't cross-contamination, but the cross-contamination argument is normally one that has proved to be quite successful. In this case, though, it hasn't done. She was criticised because she hadn't sent any hair for analysis. She said she didn't quite realise that was a thing. You could easily argue, A, she had presumably representation, so they should have thought about it. B, the authorities, if they thought that she should have done it, they should have asked for it. And the other thing is she did admit that she had taken cocaine in the past, so they took that into account. She got the full 6 months. Whether there's another line of appeal or not, I'm not absolutely certain. But yeah. It's another example of cocaine and sport coming together.
Yeah, and it does seem, as you say, that does seem to be the go-to defence now for.
But it's a reasonable defence.
Yeah,
isn't it?
But it's funny how all of them seem to use it. Contamination is always the first port of call because it's proven quite successful as a defence. it's
But she
worked
can
well.
feel, but the fact that it was a successful defence for Oshie Murphy presumably will mean that she's feeling a little bit hard done by. But then there were other strands to her story as well.
Well, we've come to the end of this week's Talking Points. Jim, Cornelius, thank you.